In the stillness between galaxies, where light has long ceased to sing, Kael Oren walks alone. The snow of Ilum drifts in silver veils, whispering the names of those who once believed they could master destiny. His breath clouds the air like smoke from forgotten fires, each step crunching over ancient footprints long erased. The temple looms ahead, half buried in crystal and frost, its gates sealed by centuries of silence. Kael's eyes, tired and gentle, flicker with a glimmer of old faith. Yet beneath that calm lies the quiet dread of truth waiting to awaken. Somewhere within the frozen stone, something stirs, not life, but memory. The first words come not from Kael's lips, but from the silence itself. A whisper carried on the wind, a voice that sounds like 1,000 echoes woven into one. Lyra's form solidifies, her gaze distant, yet tender. "You've come to unearth what should have stayed forgotten," she murmurs. Kael looks at her, unafraid. "Truth cannot rot beneath ice forever," he replies. The temple's crystals hum faintly, as though acknowledging his courage, or mocking it. Around them, ancient statues of Jedi Masters seem to watch, their eyes hollow, their serenity carved from deceit. Lyra drifts closer, her translucent hand hovering near Kael's lantern. "They told us the Force was light," she says softly. "But light can blind, can it not?" Kael lowers his head, remembering faces long gone. He senses her sorrow as his own. "Tell me," he whispers, "what truth did they bury here?" Her eyes, golden and deep as dawn, glimmer with both love and anguish. "The truth," she breathes, "that the Jedi feared the dark because it was born from their own hearts." Kael walks deeper into the hall, each step echoing across centuries. Murals of the Order's triumphs stretch across the frozen walls, peacekeepers, sages, heroes. But beneath the ice, faint etchings reveal another story. Silenced names, erased teachings, exiled souls. "So this is what truth looks like," he says quietly. Lyra nods, her voice barely a whisper. "Truth is not light or dark. It is simply what remains when the story ends." The temple's hum deepens, low, resonant, like a sleeping heart stirring. Kael kneels before the central chamber door, placing his palm on its frozen seal. "Then let the story end," he whispers. The crystals flare, light flooding across the chamber. Lyra's voice drifts behind him, fading like wind through hollow halls. "To end it, Kael, you must remember what they made you forget." The door trembles. Light fractures. The first holocron awakens. The door yields not with violence, but with breath. A slow exhale of light and memory. Kael steps into a circular chamber lined with floating holocrons, each pulsing faintly like heartbeats beneath glass. The air is thick with the echo of voices long extinguished. Lyra drifts beside him, her glow dimmed by the weight of remembrance. "They told us the Force chooses the pure," she says. "But purity is a mask that cracked 1,000 times." Kael gazes upward at the suspended crystals. "Then let me see what lies behind the mask," he murmurs. The holocrons begin to rotate, and the chamber breathes with ancient sorrow. The holocrons ignite. Ghostly images of Jedi Masters shimmer to life, faces serene, eyes cold. They speak in layered tones, fragments of ancient creed. To feel is to fall. To question is to stray. To doubt is to destroy. Lyra's hands tremble. She turns away. "I was one of them," she whispers. "A Padawan chosen for my silence." Kael's jaw tightens. "Then you were their truth, Lyra, and they silenced it." The voices grow louder, surrounding them in waves of doctrine and regret. One holocron pulses brighter, drawing Kael closer. Inside, a young initiate kneels before a council. Her eyes lowered, her voice trembling. It is Lyra, alive, flesh and blood. Before her death, the Council's judgment echoes, the Force is balance. The dark exists only in those unworthy of the light. Kale watches, breathless, as the vision fades. They taught you fear, he says softly, and called it balance. Lyra's form flickers. I wanted to believe them, she whispers, until they feared what I had seen. Kale places his palm on the holocron, and the chamber bends. Time ripples. He stands in the archives of Coruscant. Centuries past. Scrolls, crystals, and flames of data surround him. Jedi scholars debate in quiet voices, their pride wrapped in serenity. He sees himself among them, young and eager, face unlined, heart unscarred. Lyra's voice echoes faintly through the distortion. This is what they built. Walls of wisdom to hide the truth of their fear. Kale stares at his younger self, aching with recognition. The vision collapses. The chamber darkens, leaving only the faint light of one holocron still beating like a heart. Lyra drifts close to Kale, her form weakening. Each truth you unveil drains this place, she says softly. When the last light dies, so will I. Kale meets her gaze, eyes wet with quiet grief. Then I will remember for us both. He closes his hand around the holocron, and its glow seeps into his veins like liquid fire. The temple groans, awakening again. The light from the holocron seeps into Kale's mind like dawn breaking through storm clouds. He is thrown into another memory, not his own, but that of the Jedi who forged the code. The air ripples with heat, though the chamber lies frozen. He sees them gathered in secret, faces half lit by fire, whispering of control disguised as peace. Lyra's voice drifts like a sigh. They were afraid of what they could not own. Kale stumbles, his breath ragged, his pulse echoing in the hollow chamber. The illusion feels alive, too real to bear. He reaches for Lyra, but she stands apart, glowing faintly, as if fading into her own sorrow. The Council's words intertwine, sharp and dissonant. Peace must be imposed. Emotion must be erased. Kale clutches his head. Their voices claw through him, filling his mind with echoes of obedience. Lyra moves closer, placing her spectral hand near his brow. They made slaves of light, she whispers. The phrase cuts through the noise, and the illusions shatter into glass-like shards of memory. Kale gasps as one piece embeds in his palm. An image of a youngling cast out for asking, why must we obey the code if it silences the heart? As Kale rises, the broken shards swirl into a vortex of visions. Jedi duels, temples burning, faces turned away in shame. He sees the youngling again, grown now into a rogue knight cast into exile. The knight's eyes mirror his own. Every truth you bury becomes a wound, Lyra says. Kale reaches toward the storm of images, his voice trembling. Then it's time to bleed it clean. The temple walls flicker, trembling between past and present. The Force itself seems to listen. They step through the maelstrom into a reflection of the old Jedi Council chamber, hollow, cracked, lifeless. The seats are empty save for flickering remnants of light. Kale walks to the center and kneels. Forgive me, he says softly, though to whom he isn't sure. Lyra drifts in a slow orbit around him, her voice no longer human but like wind. Over stone. Forgiveness belongs not to them, Kale. It belongs to the truth you refuse to see. His face softens, grief melting into clarity. The holocron's final memory opens before them. A hidden record of a Jedi master confessing the unthinkable. We severed our hearts to bind the Force, the ghostly voice admits, and in doing so, we birth the very darkness we feared. Kale's eyes close, tears glinting like frost. All this time, he murmurs, light was never purity. It was denial. Lyra kneels beside him, her glow almost gone. "Now you see why I stayed," she whispers, not as spirit but as warning. The chamber fades to shadow. Only their heartbeats remain. One mortal, one memory. The air grows colder as Kale rises. Around him, the temple vibrates with a low hum, the sound of awakening ghosts. From the shadows, figures take shape. The ancient masters of the Jedi Council, their robes woven from starlight and memory. They do not breathe, yet their presence fills the hall like a tide of judgment. Lyra moves closer to Kale, her light dim and trembling. "I've heard your heart," she whispers, "and now they will answer for theirs." Kale's voice, though quiet, carries the strength of centuries. "Then let them speak, and let the truth stand before us all." The lead ghost steps forward, eyes void, voice ancient. "You seek to tarnish the light that saved the galaxy." Kale meets the phantom's gaze. "No," he replies, steady. "I seek to understand why it needed saving at all." The air trembles as another spirit joins, her tone both regal and cold. The Force bends to those who master it. Lyra's form brightens with defiance. "You mastered nothing," she declares. "You feared your own reflection." The council murmurs, their once serene faces flickering with unease. The temple itself seems to lean closer to hear the exchange. The chamber fills with rising echoes of argument, conviction, and guilt clashing in luminous waves. Kale steps forward, his voice carrying across the spectral hall. "You taught generations to fear desire, to sever love, to hide behind serenity. Was it peace you served, or control?" The council's light falters. One ghostly figure, younger than the rest, lowers his head. "We were blind," he whispers, "and the blindness breeds shadow." Lyra touches Kale's arm, her expression softened. They begin to remember. For the first time, silence holds no menace, only mourning. Kale walks into the center of the council circle. The floor ignites with ancient runes of the Jedi Code. "This is your covenant," he says softly. "Recite it now, and see if your hearts still believe." The masters speak in unison, voices cracking as each word fades into nothing. The runes dissolve into ashlight, leaving only the echo of their failure. Lyra watches, eyes bright with both pity and release. "Truth doesn't destroy," she murmurs. "It frees what was chained." Kale turns toward her, his face illuminated by soft, forgiving light. "Then let us set them free." One by one, the council's forms dissolve, their essence streaming upward like threads of dawn. As they vanish, the hall brightens, not with holiness, but with the fragile peace of acceptance. Kale closes his eyes. "What becomes of them?" he asks. Lyra smiles faintly, her voice thin as wind through glass. "They return to the Force. As all things must, even light must rest." Her glow softens, nearly transparent. Kale reaches for her, his hand passing through her fading silhouette. "Stay," he whispers. She looks at him with infinite calm. "Only as long as you remember." The temple trembles, no longer sustained by the illusions of its ghosts. Light fractures through the crystal walls like breaking glass. Kale stands alone at the center of the hall, the fading dust of the council swirling around him like dying stars. "It's ending," he murmurs, voice trembling. Lyra's faint presence lingers near the threshold of sight. A glow, a whisper, the echo of kindness. "It must," she answers softly, her tone both near and distant. "Truth breaks what is false, Kale, but in its ruin, something pure is born." The wind howls through the hall as the last of the false light fades, revealing the true stone beneath. Scarred, cold, and real. Cracks open along the floor, revealing streams of molten energy, pulsing like veins beneath the planet's surface. Kale steadies himself, the holocron in his grasp, glowing fiercely. The Force hums louder now, no longer a serene whisper, but a living storm. They lied to us, Kale says aloud, his voice rising above the thunder. The Force was never theirs to command. Lyra's image flickers beside him, her expression filled with sorrow. They feared its freedom, she says, and so they caged it in words. The light surges, swallowing their forms in a kaleidoscope of truth and chaos. The floor gives way and Kale falls, not through air, but through memory. He tumbles through visions of countless Jedi, their faces merging into one vast consciousness. He sees their triumphs, their fears, their silence. Then he lands softly upon a plane of glass and starlight. Lyra appears beside him, whole again, her glow bright and steady. "Where are we?" he asks, dazed. "Between what was and what remains," she replies. Around them stretch infinite reflections of Kale, of Lyra, of every soul that ever reached for light. And in each reflection, truth glimmers like a heartbeat. Kale walks among the reflections, each one whispering a fragment of his past. "Fear," says one. "Faith," says another. "Forgiveness," murmurs a third. He stops before the reflection of himself as a young historian. Eager, idealistic, lost. Lyra's voice surrounds him. "Every truth begins with a lie, we believed." Kale nods slowly. "Then belief itself is the lesson." He presses his palm to the glass, and the reflection smiles, not as a ghost, but as peace made whole. The mirror cracks softly, and the shards float upward, transforming into drifting motes of light. The mirrored world fades, leaving Kale standing once again in the heart of the collapsing temple. But the fear is gone. He looks to the place where Lyra stands, her light soft and unwavering. "You found what they buried," she says. "Now the galaxy will remember." Kale smiles faintly. "Memory is the truest force." As he speaks, the temple caves in completely, the walls dissolving into pure white light. Lyra reaches out one last time. "Then let it flow through you." Her hand touches his heart, and both fade into the brilliance, no longer divided by shadow or light, but one with the living force. Silence. Infinite, weightless silence. Kale drifts in a sea of luminous fragments, each shard a piece of the Force itself, glimmering like stars caught in breath. His body is gone. Only light remains, shaped by thought and memory. He hears Lyra's voice, not beside him, but within him, soft as the first breeze of dawn. "You are between the heartbeat and the echo," she says, "between what the Jedi called light and what truth calls whole." Kale gazes at the shards floating around him, each reflecting faces he once knew. "Then I'm all of them," he whispers, "and none." The shards begin to hum, vibrating in harmony. Each tone carries emotion, sorrow, pride, love, loss. All the colors the Jedi once denied. Kale spreads his hands, letting the vibrations course through him. "This is the truth," he says softly. "The Force is not serenity. It is life." Lyra's light intensifies, her voice tender. "You've unbound it, Kale. It will remember itself through you." As she speaks, the shards form constellations, creating a vast, living map of the galaxy. Every heartbeat, every choice, every whisper of the Force alive once more. Kale drifts toward the brightest cluster of light, a star burning in the shape of the Jedi sigil. He touches it, and visions spill forth. Children trained to forget their names. Masters preaching stillness while their hearts cried for warmth. Temples filled with silence mistaken for peace. He sees himself again, both sinner and seeker. "They weren't evil," he murmurs, voice breaking. "Just afraid." Lyra's light pulses gently. "Even fear serves the Force," she replies. "It births courage when the heart remembers." Kale bows his head. forgiveness washing over him like golden rain. The light dims. The shards begin to descend, folding back into darkness. Kale looks around, the vastness now fading into a quiet void. "It's ending again," he says. Lyra's voice answers, gentler than ever. "Not ending, returning. Every truth must rest before it becomes anew." Kale nods, his figure flickering between form and light. "Will I remember when I wake?" A long pause, then her voice, a whisper through the fading glow. "Only what your heart dares to keep." The universe closes its eyes. Then, breath. Kale awakens on the frozen plains of Ilum. The storm has passed. Snow falls softly, glittering with remnants of unseen light. His robes are torn, but his eyes are calm, reflecting both dawn and dusk. The temple behind him lies silent, half-sunken, a relic of truth reclaimed. He looks upward, sensing Lyra's presence carried on the wind. "I remember," he says quietly. "Not their order, not their silence, but their light and their shadow." The horizon brightens, sun breaking through the clouded sky. For the first time, balance feels real. The wind has softened. The snow no longer cuts. It drifts gently across the plains, settling upon the ruins like a blessing. Kale walks slowly through the field of ice, his breath calm, his eyes bright with understanding. The galaxy above glows faintly, 1,000 stars newly awake. The holocron rests in his palm, no longer burning but warm, alive. "So, this is what remains," he says softly. Lyra's voice, now part of the air itself, answers, "What remains is what was always true. Not the light nor the dark, but the choice between them." Kale smiles faintly, lifting his gaze to the horizon where dawn begins to form. As Kale reaches the summit overlooking the valley, he feels the force ripple beneath his feet. Fast, unshackled, awake. The old teachings return in fragments, echoing like fading hymns. There is no emotion, there is peace. He closes his eyes, breathes in, and whispers, "There is both." The force responds, a soft pulse. Neither command nor submission, but communion. Lyra's laughter drifts faintly, like the ringing of glass. "Then you've learned what even the masters could not," she says. Kale lowers his head, smiling with gratitude. "I only remembered what they forgot." The holocron in Kale's palm opens one final time, projecting light not outward, but inward into his chest. It fuses with his heartbeat, its song now one with his breath. Lyra's voice grows fainter, yet warmer. "Where will you go now?" she asks. Kale turns toward the horizon, where the last of the night dissolves into day. "Wherever the force is forgotten," he replies. The sky brightens, a palette of gold and rose washing over the ruins and the man who carries the truth. Kale walks toward the distant ridgeline, where light meets the world. As he moves, faint figures appear on the horizon, not ghosts but echoes of those he's freed. The lost Padawans, the forgotten masters, all walking beside him, bound together in luminous silence. Lyra walks among them, her golden form radiant, her face full of peace. She glances at Kale, and though no words are spoken, their hearts say all that's left to say. Farewell without ending, love without need. The force ripples once more, endless, alive. The screen of the cosmos fades to white. Kale's final words echo across the stillness. The force is not the light we chase, it's the balance we become. His voice dissolves into wind, mingling with laughter, now indistinguishable from the hum of the stars. Snow falls once more, gentle and endless. The ruins of the temple glisten beneath the morning sun, not as symbols of failure, but of truth reclaimed. In their quiet gleam lies the promise of renewal, that even after centuries of silence, the Force still breathes in those who dare to see.